Hey folks, Tony Lockhart here. I would like to talk about the node view. So before we get started, let's go get some paper and some fun materials. So I'm going to start by drawing those two pieces of paper that you just saw. I've got a string for the pendulum done in orange, and then the actual weight or the sphere is going to be done in green. I'm going to cut both of those pieces out, and at the pivot location, I'm going to use a hole puncher. I've also got these brass fasteners, and what I'll do is I'll use those to connect the two pieces together. And for the sake of this video, let's just call this pendulum thing that I made my character or my rig. Alright, so here is the digital version done in Harmony. Notice that I've got a background layer, I've got a string layer, and I've got a ball layer. If I scrub forward in time, note that I don't have any artwork, but if I go and select these frames, do an F5, function key 5, or extend the exposure. So now I need to go set this up with pegs. First thing I want to do is head over to the node view. So on the right side, I'm going to hit the plus sign, open up the node view menu, and then I want to hide this color. Note that with the node view, if I hold down the spacebar and I drag left or right, I can move things around, roll the mouse wheel up or roll the mouse wheel down to zoom in and zoom out. And then what I want to do is I want to put some animation controllers on these two layers. Note that the ball, which is in front, is on the left side. If I take this string and if I scoot it over to the right, notice that it shows up behind the actual string because the string is further to the left. So just try to imagine this as a different way to think about your layers. Let me just click these arrows to show you the artwork relative. So it's nice because you get your layers, and just pay attention to how every time I click around the highlight changes. It's nice because you have an image to go with it, and you can either D to deactivate, A to activate any of these, because that's an easy way to make things visible or invisible. Alright, let's set these characters up. I want to click, hold, drag, select both of them. I'm going to do a Control Shift P, and that's going to give me two animation controllers. Let's set up the rotations on each of them. So let me start with the ball node. Notice that I have the highlighted layer over here, and I want to go and choose this tool. It's called Translate. And what I can do is I can go and take and add a location for this to rotate. So if you recall, earlier I did the hole punching to go get a pivot point for this piece of artwork because that's where this pendulum is going to rotate. Okay? By the way, how am I doing this? I'm using the transformation tool. Alright, so now that this is working appropriately, I can either go to this keyframe in my timeline and press R to reset, or I can right click and I could delete the keyframe. Let's zoom out, zoom in, and I want to select the string, and then I want to rotate that thing as well. So let's go hit the move the translation point to the top, so when I go and translate it, it rotates and moves around accordingly. Now there's one last thing to do. Notice that there's a parent and a child situation. I've moved this artwork by animating it to the right. You can see I've got a frame, but the pendulum ball has not attached to it. It's not moved along with it. Now if I go back to the node view and if I move this node around, note that I could go and drag a line. So I'm just going to click, hold, and drag a string, and it's going to connect to the top of the ball. If I remove that, then they're separated. However, if I go and make that connection, the one that's on the top is the parent and the one below it is the child. Alright, so now that my rig has been set up, what I want to do is to go and animate it. So I want to go to the transformation tool, and I want to make sure that my string animation controller or my node is selected, and I'm going to go and move this over here off to the left by rotating it. Note that I just got a keyframe. Now I'm going to go forward in time to frame number 30, and I want to go and move this back. If you turn on the onion skin, you can see that it has created a number of these in-betweens for me, so it's really handy. I can also scrub backwards and it's done the animation for me. Really handy. Now, let's get this thing to loop. So at frame 60, I want it to go back to the beginning. So I can click in the timeline, do a Control C to copy that keyframe. I want to go over here to frame 60, do a Control V, and then I want it to loop, so I'm just going to nudge it a little bit off to the side. So when I hit this play button on loop, it's just going to loop forever, which is pretty nice. I can also go to the middle and do minuses or pluses to change the timing, just like we did in previous lessons. Very handy stuff. Now, going back to what we talked about in the previous clip, if I sever the connection, the animation is still happening on the string animation controller, but the string artwork is left untouched. Now the ball has been separated from the parent, so it doesn't go with it. But again, if I connect that, then it's going to travel with it. If I sever the connection, the ball doesn't travel with the string. What's nice also is I can go back and I could choose the ball animation layer, or the peg, and I could do whatever I want to it, such as give it a stretch, and then I can go over here and I could shrink it and do all kinds of other weird stuff, turn it upside down. And over here I can take this thing and rotate it a few times. I can go back here and press R to reset the location, and then maybe at this point give it a little nudge. And it's really going to look wild and crazy, but the thing is, at least it's animated and it's stuck together. And if I separate that, break that connection, notice that the ball is still being animated and it still has all that shininess and it looks pretty cool. Now, one other thing to consider is, like, what happens when you switch the situation? What happens when the parent becomes the ball and the child becomes the string? You're going to get all kinds of crazy stuff. But, you know, I would advise you to just go and experiment with all this, okay? Let's go fix this real quick. All right, so I hope that was a valuable lesson. Do me a favor, go build a 2-piece rig and try to animate it. Thanks for watching. Bye.